Hello, this is Johannes from Hedico with some updates for the Line 1 light meter. There are three things I want to talk about. First being extended parameter ranges, second being the dynamic range of the meter, and the third are some additional operational modes for the light meter. The extended ranges come from requests from the Kickstarter page. So with the F number, for example, the highest F number you could select previously was F128 for pinhole cameras. Some people wanted even higher values, so now you can also go upwards to F1024. With ISO, the same thing. People requested lower ISOs to use with collodion process. So previously the ISO, the lowest ISO was ISO 3, and now it goes down to ISO 0.5. The shutter speed also is adjusted. So previously the longest exposure was 24 minutes, and now the calculated and set values can go upwards to 8 hours and 20 minutes. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the dynamic range of the light meter. Up until now, I didn't really specify anything, mostly because I wasn't using all of the sensor data up until that point. Now with the firmware almost complete or basically complete, I can give more information about it. The displayed and calculated values go from -3 eV to 20 eV. So the range is always specified at ISO 100. So at -3 to -1 eV, the values still are a bit noisy, but I think they are a good indication and still usable. But if you really need like low light meters, I think there are better alternatives out there. The third thing I wanted to talk about are operational changes. So previously, the standard operational mode is like this. You, for example, in aperture priority, you set your aperture, your exposure compensation, and you have a live view of the shutter speeds. And only once you put your camera to your eye and press down the button, it locks down the value. But now there's also the normal inverted mode, I call it. So only when you push down on the button, the values update. And once you let go of the button, the value is locked in. Personally, I still prefer like the normal operation, which I call it, which is like the continuous live reading. So basically you get your camera out of your bag, you turn on the meter, you have live readings, and you can already scope out the scene you have in front of you and preset the camera accordingly. So most of the time when going to the frame and looking at the value, you don't even change settings on the camera because you already have it pretty closely, and you basically only adjust it like one stop at most. But some people want it differently, so I implemented the normal inverted mode. If you want to use it, now you can. Also now implemented is a low resolution mode. So by default, the step size is a third stop increments when changing or calculating values. Now with low resolution mode, there is also a mode where it's all in full steps. So instead of having to turn the wheel 3 times or like 3 steps for a full stop, now each click on the control wheel is like a full stop of change. It's a bit less accurate because now you don't have like a really fine grain feel of the light situation, but it's a much quicker operation. So since most cameras only work in one-stop increments with aperture and shutter speeds, maybe for some it's useful. For now, this will be the final update. I don't plan on adding any more features to the firmware at the moment. I also don't, I am not gonna do any more updates on the Kickstarter for the next time. Like I only gonna update like 24 hours before the end of the campaign. So if you still have any questions, feel free to ask here on YouTube or ask on the Kickstarter page. But yeah, up until then, thank you for your support and goodbye.